There are many, many people in the square. In fact, the square is quite full for this first vote, and they're waiting to see if the smoke will be black or white.
I think that's a prerequisite, Bishop, that there be a seagull. There's usually a bird on top of the chimney at some point. So we're getting that out of the way right at the beginning here, too. Well, you were mentioning the people in the square, and I believe we have our own Jay Fadden in the square right now.
There he is.
There he is. He's one of the people there. We're seeing some great shots. A beautiful sunset there today, Jay.
It is. It's absolutely beautiful, Kevin. But it's cold. It was really warm today, but now maybe because we're up so high, it's cold.
Now, can I ask you a question? You've been at a number of conclaves. It seems to me that just by looking at the number of people who are in the square right now, and also the attention that I've seen paid to the conclave online, social media, television, etc., news, it seems like there is a tremendous amount of attention being paid to this conclave. Do you get that sense, Jay, in comparison?
There is. It was really pretty much crazy earlier today as the Cardinals arrived, and the press is everywhere. And even now, more and more people keep arriving at the site. I'm actually on top of the columns here. You can see the door behind me where the new Pope will walk out eventually. And it's getting so you can't even move up here. There are so many press and the people, and everyone's very excited. It's really an unbelievable atmosphere.
Well, we're hoping, Jay, that this is an historic conclave where they come up with a decision in the first vote. So you'll be right there, ready to roll.
I don't think that's going to happen. A lot of people are talking that today is a practice for us, for the press. But you know, things do happen. But I would guess that my guess is we're going to be here maybe till Friday. But who knows? Only God and 133 Cardinals knows what is going on right now.
Yeah, and in a way, even I suppose they don't know, because there are a number of Cardinals, obviously, who have been named as potential papabili, as they say, or potential popes to be elected. And I suppose there are many different opinions, but as Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re preached this morning at the Mass Pro Eligendo Romano Pontifice for the election of a Roman pontiff, that the Holy Spirit is really guiding these men to somehow together come up with a number of votes that will elect a new pope.
Yes, they're going to need 89. Whoever gets 89 votes will be the new pope. And I have to tell you, Bishop, it is unbelievable right now. It really is. It's unbelievable. Again, this is my third, but it is always so exciting to be here, to experience this in person, and to see the emotions so many people have to be part of this. It's a beautiful moment, and it's a historical moment.
What was it like getting into Rome itself, Jake? If you could give us a little glimpse at that, where the airport's filled. What's it like trying to get around the Vatican at this point?
Well, Bishop Reed knows well about Rome, being from the Pontifical North American. The airports weren't bad, Kevin, but the restaurants are full, the streets are full. There's really no rules about how to drive in Rome. There's scooters everywhere, so you just have to be cautious. But there are just so many people here, because there was the Jubilee year, and there's pilgrims who are marching throughout the streets too. So there's a lot of different things going on at once. And I look behind me, and every rooftop has camera crews in them right now. It's amazing. Yeah, here, I'll show you. Let me turn this around. Wait, let me turn it around.
Oh, yeah.
All the cameras. Yeah.
So earlier today, when the Cardinals processed into the Sistine Chapel and they took their oath, then Archbishop Diego Ravelli, who is the master of pontifical ceremonies, he spoke those famous words, extra omnes, everybody out. So were you offended this morning, Jay, when you were kicked out of the Sistine Chapel?
No, they let me stay, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I actually kicked everyone else out, and then hung out for a while, looked at the artwork, and then I let the Cardinals back in.
It's a lot of artwork to look at. Thanks for being so kind.
Well, I do what I could do. Yes, no, everything about this is historic. I didn't realize that the white smoke didn't start until 1914. I thought it always was white or black smoke, but that started in 1914. So it's just everything you learn is interesting, and you hear people talking, and everyone is so excited, and people are praying, and they're saying the rosaries, and it just is on and on. The deep faith of so many people here. People are crying. It's a moment I'll never forget.
And I know that Cardinal Sean O'Malley cannot go into the conclave this time, but have you seen him around? Have you bumped into him?
I have not yet. We've actually looked for him, but we have not seen him as of yet.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of Cardinals, and Jimmy has those, and Jason has stood post. He gets very early in the morning. He gets where the Cardinals come in, a spot for press, and we try to locate some of the Cardinals, but we have not seen Cardinal O'Malley as of yet. I'm sure we will see him at some point.
I hope you do.
And we're actually seeing some of the satellite feeds, Jay, and the amount of crowds just forming for this first vote, which, as we've said before, is traditionally sort of an acclamation vote. But just to see those crowds just for this first vote is pretty amazing. And as you mentioned, too, it is a Jubilee year. There are many Jubilee events going on. But maybe you could talk about some of the security that you've seen around, too. I know it probably worked out in terms of the security that was already in place for the Jubilee year itself, but now with the added dimension to the conclave.
That is the one thing that has really stuck out to me, is how secure everything is. There are all kinds. There's military, there's police, there's undercover police. They are everywhere. And I don't mean just in the square. They are throughout Rome. And they are making sure that you have to have your press pass. They're directing you. They're telling you where to go. They're making sure that everyone is official. They're in the squares walking around. So there's just, it's ever present. And you feel very secure with all of the press. All of the presence of the police and the military that are here. It is something that I've never witnessed before.
I want people to know that today there's just this one vote, but we know that Jay will be with us again tomorrow and the coming days at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the first, perhaps the first smoke signal, at 6 a.m., then again at 11:30, and then 1 p.m. each day as we move forward. Although, Kevin, I believe that they do take a day off after a certain amount of votes.
Yes, they do. I believe it's after 3 days they will have a day of prayer and kind of regroup and then start the voting the next day too. Hopefully we won't get to that point. No. But we will be here nonetheless, whether or not that happens. Jay, thanks so much for being with us. We're going to be checking in with you again throughout the course of the conclave, and we will be back again at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, which is a little easier over there, because I believe, what is that over there, 10:30 or something?
10:30,
yeah. 10:30. Kevin, are you going to be up at 4:30?
Well, that's the big question. There's a lot of people are betting on the conclave. A lot of people are also betting on whether I'll be here at 4:30 a.m. in the morning.
And you know who's the number one bettor? It's me.
So, Bishop, I'll see you tomorrow morning, then.
Okay.
Exactly. Hey, Jay, you look really cool in those headphones, too.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Hey, great to see both of you.
Excellent.
Be good now.
Yeah.
Remember too, I have the blog going on. The blog is on, you just go to CatholicTV.com and go to About, and you can read what's going on every single day here.
Sounds
I
great.
put about 4 stories up.
And you will.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Keep
Jay.
your eyes on that chimney.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
And we see some great shots of the square too. It's amazing to see the people gathered there too, just for this first vote. We talked about it earlier. We saw the Cardinals taking the oath there, and there was a reflection to start the voting, and then it was the voting would begin, and that's the thing we don't know, and this is the thing that will happen during the course of the rest of the time during the conclave, as we can see there. The conclave first round of voting is going on right now, and then when we get into the sessions tomorrow, the 4:30 a.m. time here, 10:30 back in Rome. That'll be the first round of voting for the day. Now, if there's no conclusion as to a new pope, then they will immediately start the second round of voting. So there'll be no smoke in between if there's no pope decided on. And then there will be smoke after the second voting during the day tomorrow, which would be at 6 a.m. our time here. And then the evening sessions coming up a little bit later in the day at 11:30 and 1 p.m. Tomorrow, should it go that far. And then that schedule will repeat itself for the next days that we'll need. And again, a 2/3 majority, and that is about 89 votes needed for the Pope to be voted on. There.
And you can see a shot there of the chimney on top of the Sistine Chapel, a chimney that's not there all the time. It's only constructed, put out for conclaves specifically. But inside the Sistine Chapel, as Kevin said, the voting is going on, and no matter what happens, we're going to find out momentarily whether that vote was at all conclusive. But it's interesting to note that the Cardinals and those who are working with them inside the Vatican all had to give up their devices.
Yes,
today.
Yeah, their cell phones, yeah.
And I believe that at a certain hour today, the internet was blocked inside the Apostolic Palace.
That's right, yeah, they jam all the signals going in and out of the Sistine Chapel. And now, Bishop, how would you do with them taking away your phone?
I wouldn't do well. I wouldn't do well. But, you know, I suppose they have enough on their minds to preoccupy them.
That's true. Well, it's a good time. You know, we have gone through the 9 days of mourning, and we have gone through the funeral of Pope Francis, too. And, you know, I thought it'd be nice just to look a little bit back on Pope Francis's pontificate. And we had the opportunity during his 10-year anniversary, we just recently ago, to have Cardinal O'Malley in our studios to talk about his 10th anniversary. And during that conversation, he talked about some of the Pope Francis's accomplishments. So let's take a little look at that right now.
For him to have an extraordinary Holy Year and to make mercy the subject of that, and with all of the activities and the prayers, it really excited people. Everybody was talking about the Year of Mercy, and I think it just shows how hungry we are for mercy in today's world, where there's often such a lack of mercy in the way that we treat each other. And so I think that was a great contribution for him to stress the fact the face of God is mercy, and the business of the church is about mercy.
I miss hearing that voice, Kevin. We don't hear his voice that often anymore.
And of course, Cardinal Sean was on the international Cardinal Consultors of Pope Francis, and still, I believe, is on that group as well. Yeah, and so many things that Pope Francis had done and incorporated in his time as Pope, and whether it be the Year of Mercy or some other things too. Actually, we can take a look now at a look back at Pope Francis's pontificate. Rome Report's put a nice little piece together too, as we continue to reflect on the papacy of Pope Francis.
Throughout his pontificate, Pope Francis has made 47 international trips, visiting 10 African countries, 22 Asian countries, 23 European countries, and 12 countries throughout North and South America. In total, he traveled 469,770 kilometers, the equivalent of a trip to the moon. He called for an extraordinary jubilee, that of mercy, which he began during one of his trips. He presided over another, the 2025 Jubilee dedicated to hope, and also held 4 synods, one on the family, one on youth, one on the Amazon, and one on synodality. He also published several documents, including 4 encyclicals, one of them with Pope Benedict XVI, and 7 apostolic exhortations. Together with the Council of Cardinals, he carried out the reform of the Curia through the new apostolic constitution, the Predicate Evangelium. Almost 80% of the cardinal electors were chosen by him. He was also one of the popes who carried out many canonizations, if not the most, 939 people. The majority of the canonizations, 812, were the martyrs of Otranto, who were killed during the raids carried out by the Turks on the Italian coast at the end of the 15th century. Pope Francis was also the first pope to appoint a woman as head of a Vatican ministry. She is Sister Simona Brambilla, prefect of the dicastery in charge of religious people.
Just a little taste of some of Pope Francis's pontificate, and just seeing that too, you recognize all the things that he was involved in too, and I think one of the during the congregations that the cardinals had leading up to the conclave, that continues to be something that they were talking about too, is Curia reform, and of course continuing some of the work that Pope Francis has done, and you know, the fact that he has incorporated so many positions and have women in key positions in the Vatican too is pretty amazing during his pontificate.
And during this interregnum period between the reigns of Pope Francis and whoever is elected this week, or who knows, next week, whenever we see white smoke, the question might arise, well, who runs the church, you know? And I guess it's really the College of Cardinals together, but led by Cardinal Kevin Farrell, who is the Carmelingo. So he is the one responsible once the Pope dies to confirm the Pope's death, to prepare for the funeral and the 9 days of mourning, and then to gather the cardinals and prepare the Sistine Chapel and everything that needs to be readied for the conclave. So that's who's running the church right now, Cardinal Kevin Farrell and the College of Cardinals. But hopefully in the next day or two, we will have a new successor to St. Peter.
And speaking of that, we have put together some of the cardinal profiles, I want to say. Adam came up with some graphics of some of the cardinals that will, you know, a lot of people are talking about different odds on different cardinals, but there's a wide list. We talked about 133 cardinals that are here voting, and so we just wanted to, just get to know a few of them too. So I believe we can, of course, everybody has seen Cardinal Pietro Parolin, and there he is. He's the Vatican Secretary of State. He's 70 years old, and an Italian diplomat, has a hand in coordinating every aspect of Vatican activity since taking on the role in October 2013. As the top-ranking cardinal bishop under the age of 80, he is administering the oath of secrecy to the electors in the Sistine Chapel, kind of running things inside. And he's going to be the one that, when they vote on the Pope, to go up to the candidate that has and ask him if he accepts the canonical election as Supreme Pontiff, and he will ask that person to what name they wish to be called. And he also is multilingual, has represented Pope Francis in the Holy See on the world stage. He was born in 1955 in Italy, the Diocese of Vicenza, and he's been, as we mentioned, a career diplomat, working in Nigeria, Mexico. He was, before he became Secretary of State, he was the Vatican Nuncio to Venezuela, too. So quite an extensive history in the Vatican diplomatic corps. He went to school there as well. And he was the first cardinal created by Pope Francis.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And born in 1955, too. Yeah. That places him within, I guess, the popular age range, because for what it's worth, many have said that the College of Cardinals would like to see a pope who reigns for, say, 10, 12 years. That would be a good kind of interim between Pope Francis and the future. So he fills that quality too of being just about the right age.
Yeah,
at
yeah.
70.
Yeah, okay. And you know, a lot of people, just because of his closeness to Pope Francis too, and being involved in all the, I mean, that was another issue that came up during the congregations too, is these conflicts in the world too, and the importance of the Pope in the world scene, to be able to reach out to these warring sides and try to get them to the table too. So a person like Cardinal Pietro Parolin, of course, has the experience of doing that as well. We are here at the desk, Conclave 2025 going on right now, and we are waiting the results of the first vote, which is taking place, and the results will be happening through a chimney. And we will see if it's black smoke or white smoke. Black smoke indicating that there is no conclusive vote, and that we will be here tomorrow. And the white smoke would mean that they have decided on a new pontiff for the church too.
And that is not the Holy Spirit right next to the chimney. That is a seagull. The Holy Spirit hopefully is inside the Sistine Chapel.
Could they have at least gotten a dove up there?
I know,
I
really.
mean, come on. But it's a beautiful evening in Rome. We talked to Jay a little bit earlier too. A little chilly for him, but for everybody there at the square, it's pretty impressive to see the numbers gathered for that first vote. We were talking too about Pope Francis's legacy, and a lot of cardinals and people throughout the world were kind of reflecting on that when Pope Francis passed away. And one of the cardinals who has been mentioned but now I always get the name wrong. Is the Papalius?
Oh, Papabile.
Papabile. One of them is a Spanish cardinal, Cardinal Mendonça, and he works in one of the dicasteries at the Vatican too. And he reflected recently on Pope Francis's legacy. We have a clip from the CNS on that.
Papa Francesco lascia una preziosa eredità. Lui mi ha sempre colpito per il modo come integra, per esempio, l'immaginazione. Se pensiamo a immagini iconiche del suo pontificato, per esempio aprire la prima porta santa fuori del Vaticano a Bancù, o la piazza di San Pietro vuota, e tante altre immagini che chiudendo gli occhi noi vediamo del suo pontificato. Quello mostrano una capacità, forse gesuitica senz'altro, perché è un papa gesuita, di usare l'immaginazione per comporre, fare la composizione del suo ruolo. E usare l'immaginazione gli ha dato una grande libertà di spirito. È stato un papa che ha portato un soffio di spirito alla Chiesa, portandola veramente in uscita. Le parole programmatiche della sua prima esortazione apostolica non furono soltanto parole. Lui ha portato la Chiesa in uscita.
And we are back in studio, and beautiful words there for Cardinal Mendonça. And again, he's one of the ones, of course, you know, a lot of people, they talk about as possible papal material, but he is one that's names come up a few times as well.
Yeah, I have heard his name. You know, it's interesting, Kevin, that it's 2025, and we're able to watch the proceedings both inside the Sistine Chapel before the doors were locked, and also out in the square. And we're able to be part of this in a way like never before. But still, with so much technology available at our fingertips, the ballots are still handwritten.
Yes. Yeah,
and the
yeah.
signal is still a smoke signal, and the bell. So there's an element of tradition that kind of covers over this whole proceeding, which is a beautiful thing in a way.
Yes, yeah, and something that you don't think of as well. And I always, before I started working here too, I always thought there was always a chimney on this Sistine Chapel, but they actually put it in for, they have. The last time it was there was back in 2013. So they had firefighters that came and put that in this past week. Put the little chimney in and the fireplace in the Sistine Chapel there, and there it is.
Speaking of the chimney, Evan just said to me, and it makes sense. They're really focusing on the chimney a lot in terms of the Vatican coverage, which makes one wonder whether something is about to happen.
Well, you would think, but then again, all communication has been cut off, so that would be that there would be an insider and sneaking out little things about that.
And of course, the vote is not a simple process. It's done with great care. 3 scrutineers count the votes out loud. Each ballot is read again, and then it's tallied. And it's placed on a thread with a needle so that it can be burned all together. So there's a lot of process to taking the vote. It's not just a matter of pushing a button, because it's done in the traditional manner with handwritten ballots. And each cardinal must bring the ballot up and place it into on a paten and drop it into the container. So this takes a little while, is on.
That's right. And of course, as I mentioned too, Cardinal Pietro Parolin is because he was the youngest of the cardinal bishops. He is running things inside the Sistine Chapel. Normally, it would have been Cardinal Ray, but he is, I believe, he's 91 now.
I think he is,
yeah. And then the second in command was over 80 as well. So they needed somebody who was voting to be inside the Sistine Chapel running things, and that is Cardinal Parolin. And let's take a look now, if we can, another cardinal profile. Where, as I mentioned, we're showing you some of the cardinals that are inside the Sistine Chapel right now voting, and gives you a little bit of an idea of who is there. And one of them is from Morocco, Cardinal Cristobal Lopez Romero of Rabat, Morocco, and he is Spanish, deep ties to Latin America and North Africa, 72-year-old Salesian missionary, and has spent more than 3 decades of his priestly ministry in the developing world, and now leads a tiny Catholic minority in a Muslim-majority country. He was born in May of 1952 in Vélez Rubio in southern Spain. Cardinal Lopez took his vows as a Salesian at age 16 and was ordained a priest in 1979. After early ministry in the outskirts of Barcelona, he moved to Paraguay, where he worked in youth ministry, eventually became a provincial superior of the Salesian. He later held leadership roles in Bolivia, Morocco, and Spain before being appointed Archbishop in Rabat in 2017. And he was appointed Archbishop of Rabat in 2017, as I mentioned, and created a cardinal by Pope Francis in 2019, shortly after the Pope's trip to Morocco. As I mentioned, he's Archbishop in a Muslim-majority country. Cardinal Lopez made interreligious dialogue a cornerstone of his ministry, and of course Pope Francis as well talked about that, and he's a vocal supporter of synodality. These are some of the cardinals too that Pope Francis has appointed in places where the Catholic majority is small, as he said, he's gone to the peripheries, he's gone to the outskirts, and had naming a cardinal for a smaller majority Catholic community to uplift its profile.
One of the concerns that's been expressed recently, speaking of the cardinals, is the fact that they have been, many of them, chosen by Pope Francis from the peripheries, from the outskirts, from places that never would have been represented in the College of Cardinals. And for that reason, the cardinals don't really know each other all that well, which just makes the congregations, these meetings that have been going on for the past few days, all the more important. Gives them a chance to get to know each other, to listen to the wisdom of their older brothers, and to be inspired by the youth and the enthusiasm of the younger. So those congregations, I think, are all the more important this time, simply because of the way that Pope Francis has reconfigured, in a sense, the College of Cardinals.
It's true, and many we're bringing up some of the things that we were hearing, and that they were announcing through the Vatican press office as well. Some of the things that the Cardinals had been talking about, and many of the challenges, of course, with the wars that are going on, the ongoing wars in the Middle East, and of course Ukraine and Russia, and also migration is something that's still in the forefront as well. And you know, of course, always will be the abuse and scandal. So these are some of the things that they were able to talk about. Some of the Cardinals would say, you know, yes, I want to speak a little bit, and they would go in a queue and be able to talk to some of the other Cardinals face to face. So, I mean, this is the type of thing, from what I understood too. When Cardinal Bergoglio did this at one of these congregations last time, spoke, really connected with a lot of the Cardinal electors there, and it kind of pushed them over the edge. So these are important meetings that they had leading up to it, and because there's no talking in the Sistine Chapel too. It's voting. As I said, there was a reflection beforehand, but then it's down to business. So you kind of have to have a kind of good idea of some of the Cardinals going into it. Yeah.
I don't think I'd be able to keep my mouth shut, to be honest with you. We're looking at right now. We're looking at that chimney atop the Sistine Chapel, just waiting to see if, by chance, the first vote of the conclave was in any way successful in electing a pope. You never know. It is taking a little bit longer than we thought, but then again, there are more cardinals in the chapel this time than ever before. But what happens? So if a cardinal is elected, that is to say, if he gets the 2/3 votes, the dean of the college will go to the man and say, do you accept your canonical election as the Supreme Pontiff? And if he says, I accept, then the question is posed, by what name shall you be called? And after he gives his answer, the name that he'll be called, he is considered to be the Pope, the great Pontifex. And actually the term Pontifex is a very powerful title for the Pope. It means, from the Latin, a bridge builder. A pontus is a bridge. So the Pope builds bridges between earth and heaven, between nations and between individuals of various considerations and political aspirations. And he builds the bridge to bridge these various people and institutions, and ultimately to bridge us to the Father in heaven.
And then, you know, along with people guessing who will be the new pope is the guessing of what the name of the new pope will be. So that is also another interesting side note to all this too. You know, what the new pope will decide on for a name too. And of course, there was the first Francis that we heard last time. So we'll see if perhaps it continues, or you know, there's a whole new name. I don't know.
I'm going with Clement myself.
Clement? Okay, you like that, yeah. We had looked back during the course of this half hour that we've been here on the papacy of Pope Francis too, and we've had some people in here to the studios and talked to them via Zoom about what Pope Francis has meant to them as we look back on his papacy. And one of those people was Alex Jones, who's the CEO and co-founder of Hallow, and he came in and talked about how Francis has, how he'll be remembered to Alex Jones. So let's take a look at that.
But back to Pope Francis, what impact did the Holy Father have personally for you on your life?
Yeah, I mean, he was the Pope when I came back to my faith. And so, you know, he was in charge of shepherding the church that has now changed my life radically and is the core part of everything that I try to live for. So, I mean, I owe everything to the church and to his leadership of the church. I think, you know, I had the honor of meeting him and in this group of folks talking about prayer, and really all he told us was, it was I think a year ago or so, but really all he told us was to pray. But I think, you know, for me, his last encyclical on the Sacred Heart of Jesus is just a perfect representation of, you know, when I think about Pope Francis, what I think about. And it is this, you know, we spend so much time, Mother Teresa's quote, which is, you know, a quote that's been used a bunch of times, but the longest distance we have to travel is the 18 inches from our head to our heart. And I think that's really what Pope Francis tried to push, which is not just, you know, saying you believe, thinking through the faith, but really letting Jesus into your heart and letting your heart speak to his heart, heart to heart, and deep unto deep. And that's what we try to do at Hallow, is to try to sit in the stillness and let our hearts discover the Lord and let him enter into our hearts. And so, you know, we take a lot of inspiration from Pope Francis.
That's wonderful. And I know that the Hallow app is really an inspiration for many young Catholics. I would love to hear, how do you think Pope Francis will be remembered around the world by the youth like yourself?
Yeah, I think it is this heart of his. You know, it's so tied to mercy, because as soon as you sit and you know, let the Lord into your heart, let him transform your heart, you find his mercy and you find his forgiveness. We get countless stories like this when people are praying with the app. We had a young woman start praying with the app, and she was caught in this state of deep sin and deep habitual sin, and she just sat in silence with the Lord praying on one of the sessions on the app, and she just said, Lord, you can't possibly love me. I'm so I've done so much terrible stuff. I'm still doing it. Like, you can't possibly love me. And she just hears in the silence, I love you. And she goes, no, you can't. I don't believe you. And she just hears, I love you. And she just hears it 10, 15 times just in 3 minutes of silence from the Lord speaking to her heart. And I think that's what Pope Francis was really trying to do with his life, really, was to introduce us to the heart of Jesus, to help us to listen with our hearts to him, not just our words and our minds, and then to find what we all find in that, which is his deep love and mercy through it. And so, you know, it's something that we all find through prayer on Hallow, and is one of the blessings of the work that we get to do. And I think that's the main thing that he'll be remembered for, hopefully.
Well, the Hallow app also posts the Pope's monthly prayer intentions in Pope Francis's in his own voice, actually. So there's a large collection of them that people can go back and listen to. Do you plan on continuing that with the next Pope, whoever that may be?
Yeah, hopefully, God willing. Well, I mean, our goal is to try to be some small tool for the church. You know, we're one small part of your prayer life, just to try to help people pray in their personal prayer, or praying for others or their friends and family around them. But our goal is, you know, really what happened to me, which is by discovering prayer, I'm led back into the beauty of the church and the sacraments and the Mass and confession and everything that the church has to offer. So that's our goal, is to try to be a tool for the church as best we can, in as many ways as the church wants us to.
Alex Jones there on recent This Is the Day from the Hallow.
Love that Hallow app.
Yes.
Everybody loves that Hallow app. That's a great resource for Catholics. It truly
and,
is.
You know, they had the opportunity, and I know Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus in the Chosen series, who does a lot with the Hallow as well. I've been over to the Vatican, has met the Pope a couple of times too. But the great work that they have done is amazing. I remember them coming in here when that was first starting out, when they were first starting out from Notre Dame. And now it's huge. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Well, we are continuing here. We're at the Conclave 2025 desk here in the studios in Watertown, Massachusetts, the headquarters of Catholic TV, and we are awaiting the first smoke of the conclave, the first smoke of the day. And we should name that seagull, because it just does not want to go away. But we're waiting for the smoke, and you know, we've talked about traditionally, this is a vote that kind of everybody kind of Cardinals are just kind of getting a feel for things, and normally it would not be a white smoke, but you never know. But we're waiting to see there. And we mentioned, too, that this is the most, in terms of electors, 133. The last couple of conclaves, there were 115. So it will be a little bit longer in terms of that, in terms of, you know, just as Bishop Reed went through the process. It's a long process with all that, you know, bringing the votes up and tying them together, and so.
And I didn't mention the Room of Tears. So there in the Sistine Chapel, just off to the left of the altar, there's a small room that's traditionally been the place where the Pope goes to change into the papal cassock, the white cassock and all. So sometimes, the new Pope needs a little time to reflect, and that just adds to, again, the process of the voting.
Yes, yeah. And it could be a Pope, as we've talked about, a Pope from anywhere around the world. Traditionally, European, Italian popes, so over the course of the centuries of the church. I had some stats here from Italy: 217 popes from Italy, 16 popes from France. Germany has 6, Syria with 5, Greece with 3. The Holy Land had 3 popes. Tunisia had 3 popes. Croatia with 2, Spain with 2, Portugal with 2, Turkey with 2, Argentina, along with England, the Netherlands, and Poland with 1 pope each, tied for the final one. So, but could be from anywhere. A lot of people looking back on Pope Francis's pontificate to another traveling pope all over the world. And one of the places that he did visit, the only one time he came here to America, was for the World Meeting of Families held in 2015.
I remember it well.
And we had the opportunity at that time to talk to Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, who is one of the popes that a lot of people consider as a top contender to be the next pope. So we had talked to him about some of the unique gifts of Pope Francis. Let's take a look at that.
I think the unique gift of Pope Francis wherever he goes is he makes people feel that he who occupies this position of leadership, the worldwide church, not only the Catholics, the whole Christian community worldwide somehow recognizes in him a voice. He makes us realize that he is just one of us. He is a brother. And he makes the Christian message really accessible to all. This is the Francis effect, humanizing the church, humanizing the papacy, humanizing the Christian message. It is open to all.
Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines.
Speaking of papabile.
Yes. And that was back in 2015. Pope Francis had come for the World Meeting of Families. Also came to New York and Washington as well before going to Philly for the World Meeting of Families there. And so he spoke to Congress when he was in Washington. And so it was a memorable event for many people, and just some thoughts from Cardinal Tagle about even back in 2015, some of the gifts that Pope Francis had brought to his pontificate.
And of course, here at Catholic TV, we're very grateful to Cardinal Tagle because every week he shares with us his beautiful reflection on the readings for Sunday that has been airing on Catholic TV for many years.
The Word Exposed.
The Word Exposed, yeah. Very, very well done.
And he continued that too. And actually, we might take a peek at one of his other quotes for that time too. We mentioned becoming cardinal and not sure if he would have the time to continue with the Word Exposed, but had bumped into some people, and they mentioned how important it was to them to see that, and so he decided to continue the program. So
wouldn't it be interesting, kind of amazing actually, if he were to be elected Pope and he continued the Word Exposed?
Wow.
As part of his preaching.
That would be pretty impressive.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah. Well, we are still, it is sunset at the Vatican now, and we are continuing to keep watch on the chimney there to see if any smoke will be coming out soon. And this is the first vote of the conclave. Once again, that if there is no decision today, we will be here at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow for what will be the estimated time that smoke would be appearing tomorrow for the second round of voting. And there is a little graphic on, the sessions that we will be covering. The morning session, as I mentioned, tomorrow would start at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that would be 10:30 a.m. time in Rome. And that would be the first vote. And then if that is not conclusive, they would go right into the second round of voting. That they estimate around 6 a.m. our time here on the East would be around the end of the second round of voting. So there would be smoke at that time, whether white or black. And if it's black, then we would go into the afternoon's session. The Cardinals will take a break for lunch, and they will come back, and that would be 11 a.m. our time, and then for the first round, and then 1 p.m. for the second round of smoke.
But don't become impatient. I'm telling you, because it could always be worse. Did you know that a conclave in the 13th century lasted over 1,000 days?
Wow.
In fact, it was so bad, Kevin, the townspeople had to remove the roof from the building where the Cardinals were and put them on a bread and water diet to get the thing moving along. Pope Gregory X was eventually elected, and he immediately reformed the process. So we are beneficiaries of that very, very long conclave. And if you're wondering what the very word conclave means, well, it means with a key, conclave, because at the conclusion, at the extra omnes and the conclusion of the preliminaries to the meeting of the Cardinals in the Sistine Chapel today, the doors of the Sistine Chapel were locked with a key. Hence the name conclave.
And I think they started to, clamp down on the Cardinals too, because from what I understand at that time that you had mentioned too, they were coming and going. So some of them would leave, and then come back, and that's why it was taking a couple of years. So they finally decided when they got them all back in at the same time, to keep them in there and cut off their food. So, thankfully that won't be going on here. So hopefully we'll see how things progress. But and
it's not like they don't have a huge field. I mean, they have all of these Cardinals that they can pick from. But then, technically, any baptized male,
that's true,
who's a Catholic, can be elected pope. So, in fact, you could be removed from the studio and brought to Rome to be.
Yeah, wow.
Asked
so
what
I wonder
your name
how
is going to be.
I wonder how they would do that. Maybe they could do a Zoom or something, and then Cardinal Pietro Parolin would ask me. But I think they would probably have to know me beforehand. We'll see. We talked about it's taking a little longer than what we anticipated, but as we mentioned, 133 cardinal electors. Many of them are, actually, it was just a consistory in December. Many of them are new and don't know each other rather well. So that was the purpose of some of the congregations leading up to it. But still, it takes a little time to figure things out. And so we will wait. And we've been doing some profiling of some of the cardinals that are actually in the Sistine Chapel right now. And let's take a look at another one of our cardinals, and this is Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith of Colombo, Sri Lanka. He was elevated by Pope Benedict XVI. He's 77, has spent significant time in Rome, was Secretary General of the Congregation for Divine Worship and the Discipline of Sacraments from 2005 to 2009, while also Papal Nuncio in Indonesia and East Timor. From 2001 to 2004, he was Adjunct Secretary of the Congregation for Evangelization of Peoples and President of Pontifical Mission Societies. On April 21st, Cardinal Ranjith announced that the Vatican had named 167 Catholics who died in the 2019 Easter Sunday bombings in Sri Lanka as heroes of faith. About 270 people perished in bombings of several churches and luxury hotels in the South Asian country. Of course, I remember that. The Cardinal's been a vocal critic of the investigation and slow-going trial of the attacks, alleging a cover-up of the findings to protect the masterminds, and he has called out officials who admitted receiving early attack warnings but did nothing. And that was a horrific Easter Sunday bombings there in Sri Lanka. But that's one of the cardinals that will be in there, and he has been talked about before as well too. Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith.
Whoever is elected, whenever it happens, it has to be an enormous sacrifice for that person. You basically give up your whole life, and one of the signs of that is the fact that the Pope is asked, "What shall you be called?" So it's been a tradition since the 500s that the Pope takes a new name, and the reason for that was in 533. The man who was elected Pope, John II, he changed his name. He was born Mercurius, but he decided to change it to John because his name was somehow associated with paganism, and he wanted to make that clear that he was a disciple of Jesus Christ. And so this custom that we have kept up until this day, this custom honors either a predecessor, an earlier pope, or a saint, and it usually signals the direction. Like Pope Francis, Jorge Bergoglio, took the name Francis after Francis of Assisi because he wanted his papacy to be focused on mercy and on the poor and those who live on the peripheries. And so he signaled that by his name. But it also was a nod to the first pope, who was Simon. But he was renamed by Jesus himself as Peter, the Rock. And so it's a nod to that tradition of the Pope ever since Simon Peter himself. Interesting about the name.
It is, yes. And I guess you could, too, it goes along with perhaps, when you think about Bishop and his seal, to think about some of the things that have been affected at the person's life and how important they are, and to put them in the seal, and the motto as well.
You're watching live coverage of the Conclave, and we're keeping our eyes, along with you, on that small copper chimney that sticks out of the top of the Sistine Chapel, where the cardinals at this moment are gathered in conclave. They're behind closed doors, they're locked in, and they're in the process of the very first vote to choose a successor to St. Peter. And so we are watching very closely that chimney, and if in fact there is white smoke that comes out of that chimney in a few moments, then we will know that we have a pope. We don't think that's going to happen, but as Kevin has said, one never knows. And what they do now, so in the olden days, wet straw was thrown in with the ballots to produce the black smoke, but it didn't always work. So now they have chemicals because we're cool now and we use chemicals.
Well, even I can remember being at the desk back in 2013.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah, and trying to recognize if it was white or black smoke, especially when it's dark. It's really difficult or was difficult to tell. So hopefully that we'll see a little bit better here. And we have some sunlight still available in the Vatican right now. So hopefully we'll be able to see and make out whether it's black or white smoke. And we were talking about the numbers being a little elevated for the cardinal electors, going 133 electors. There were 135 that were eligible, but 2 unable to make it for health reasons. So they had to do some finagling as well. So most of the cardinals will stay in the Casa Santa Marta, and there wasn't enough room. So I guess there's an old, you would know better than I, Bishop, but I guess there's an old Santa Marta that's right next to it too. So they had to move some of the cardinals in that, and they do it by lots too. So nobody gets the best suite. You have to kind of pick your number, unless they hold back the good suites. I don't know.
And we spoke about the longest conclave ever, but someone asked me recently, what was the shortest conclave? Maybe it'll be this one, who knows? We're still watching that chimney. But the shortest conclave was actually in 1503. Pope Julius II was elected in just under 10 hours. His pontificate was one of the most consequential, too, in church history, as he commissioned St. Peter's Basilica, the new one that we know today, and also the sealing of the Sistine Chapel, which is very much a part of this conclave proceeding. And he largely set the stage for the Reformation. So the shortest conclave produced a very consequential result in Pope Julius II.
Wow. Do you think we could break it this year?
I'm watching, along with that seagull, the seagull that won't leave. I am watching that.
First conclave held in the Sistine Chapel, 1492, just 9 years after it was consecrated. It would be held in various locations after that, but has stayed put in the Sistine Chapel since 1878 with the election of Pope Leo XIII. It's kind of funny. You would think it would be longer, that it was, just longer that it was held in the Sistine Chapel, but only 1878. That's not, considering the church is, 2,000 plus years. It's interesting. Yeah.
Of course, as Americans, we think so differently in terms of time. We think that's an enormous amount of time.
Yeah.
But it really is not all that long at all.
Well, we continue to wait here, and we will wait until we see some smoke, and whether it's black or white. And we have been here since 1 o'clock Eastern time, and we are expecting the smoke to happen at any moment now. The first vote of this conclave is taking place right now in the Sistine Chapel, and there have been thousands of people gathered in St. Peter's Square and down the street as well. We had the opportunity to talk to Jay Fadden, who was there in the square earlier when we went on. And it's just amazing to see the amount of people that came out just to see this first vote. I can't even imagine, once this thing starts rolling, how many people will start building and building, at the consequent votes coming up.
Because as he mentioned, we are in the midst of a holy year, a jubilee year of hope. And so typically many people would be in the city for the jubilee year itself. Also, there were people that were perhaps coming for the canonization of Blessed Carlo Acutis, which has been postponed. Also, the funeral of Pope Francis drew people to the city. So there are a lot of people there for many different reasons, but I'm sure they all consider themselves quite blessed and fortunate that they can be present on such a beautiful day. And like we are here in Boston watching that chimney looking for white smoke.
Yes. And it's pretty amazing that, this is conclave going on, as we mentioned, during a Jubilee year, and there's so many things that are coming up for the Jubilee throughout the rest of the year in Rome and throughout the world as well. And you mentioned Blessed Carlo Acutis' canonization is postponed. All canonizations have been postponed until we come with a new Pope. So there was another one that was coming up too, Blessed Forsati, that a lot of people were planning on attending, another very popular saint. So all these have been postponed, and when the new Pope comes in, he will then make new dates for these canonizations that will happen. That will be on his time as well.
You're watching live coverage of the conclave from Rome. Again, we're watching that chimney. We have our eyes on it, and so do you. If there is black smoke, that means the vote was inconclusive. But if there is white smoke, there will be an announcement made from the loggia of St. Peter's by the senior cardinal deacon. He will say to us those famous words, Habemus Papam, we have a pope. And then he will announce who that person is and what name he has chosen. And then not too much longer after that, we will have a chance to see the Holy Father for the first time, and he will speak to us briefly and give a blessing to the city and the world. But we don't expect that to happen this afternoon, but you never know, because this is taking a little bit longer than we thought. So there could be some intrigue.
It was funny, you were talking about, Bishop Reed, the satellite feed going on the chimney at the time, and there was some talk about, oh, that means, but that didn't really work out. We still have seen the chimney. So hopefully we'll see something. We did lose the bird, though. And we're let's take another look while we have time at another Cardinal profile, and hopefully I get the name of this one right. It's Cardinal Anders Arborelius. Thank you. Of Stockholm,
Nicely
Sweden.
done.
He is 75 years old, first cardinal from Sweden and Scandinavia, born in 1949 in Thuringia, Switzerland. Cardinal Arborelius was raised in Lund, Sweden, as a Lutheran before joining the Catholic Church at the age of 20. He is a noted theologian committed to ecumenism. Sweden is a predominantly Protestant country where Catholics make up roughly 1.2% of the population of about 10.5 million people. When asked why he thought Pope Francis would choose a cardinal from a country where the Catholic Church is so small, the bishop told a Swedish radio station that Pope Francis wanted to highlight what it is to live in a secular society and still be able to develop the church, which is a great answer. While working at a Benedictine monastery, you'll like this, Bishop, while working at a Benedictine monastery in Luxembourg, he came across a copy of St. Therese of Lisieux's The Story of a Soul, which ultimately inspired him to join the Discalced Carmelites.
Why am I not surprised?
In 1979, was ordained a priest in Malmo. In 1998, St. John Paul II appointed him Bishop of Stockholm, making him the first ethnic Swede to be made bishop since the Protestant Reformation. Aside from his native Swedish, Cardinal Arborelius is fluent in Italian, Spanish, and English. So a lot of people have mentioned him as well as being papable, or as I'm not even going to say.
Popable. Just go with
yeah,
popable.
just popable. Yeah, interesting life, and again converted at the age of 20, and the effect that Saint Therese had on him as well.
And he's in that right age range too.
Yeah. You have like this, age range thing going.
Just reading the newspapers, and my phone, social media. One of the things too that is a huge consideration for the cardinals is how to continue the legacy of Pope Francis and keep the church moving in a positive direction. Issues like synodality, having a prophetic spirit. But what strikes me is, and Jay mentioned this too when we had him on earlier, the amount of attention that is being given to the conclave by journalists and those who purport to be journalists. Because we can all be a journalist now. We have our phone with us, But that says to me that the church has a real power in our lives and in the lives of our human family. With the presence of so many journalists is a sign that the gospel retains its power, its meaning, even in today's world, which obviously places upon whoever the man who is chosen an enormous burden and responsibility to keep the spirit of Pope Francis and the church alive, to keep the joy of the gospel alive in people's hearts. And obviously the church and the gospel means an awful lot to people. Otherwise, it wouldn't attract this much attention.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I know Pope Francis was always trying to connect with journalists, and that was one of his trademarks too, to be able to, whether it was on a papal flight, he would always go back and talk individually to the reporters on the plane. But even at the Vatican, St. Peter's Square, he would walk over to the reporters and talk to them and recognize the value of good journalism, recognize the value of that and purporting, and he would always say something like that, make sure you're telling the truth and take your job seriously and what you're able to do as a journalist too. So I think that plays a lot into the next Pope's agenda, and with so many different ways to communicate now. As you're saying, Bishop Reed, whether it's a phone or it's amazing that there's so much media that is out there, and so many ways it can go wrong and has gone wrong, but so many ways that it can be used in the proper way and in a good way and in a way to promote gospel values. So this is something that I think the next Pope will have to take into consideration too.
Absolutely. And we've been introduced to this term synodality by Pope Francis. over the past number of years with the Synod on synodality. And really, the consistory itself, I think, is an expression of that. I know that the Cardinals want to be in touch with the people that they serve, with the church on the ground. But it's been so important for them, as we were saying earlier, to be together for these congregations, to share time, to share faith, to share their impressions of the church, what the church needs, of who is the right person to fill the shoes of the fisherman, you know. So I see the consistory of cardinals, the congregations, I'm sorry, in preparation for the conclave as being an expression of synodality, because they're required to really listen to one another, to be open to how the Holy Spirit speaks, not just through the church, but through the church's members, to us who are the body of Christ, and through their brother cardinals. So synodality and its value is going to be something, whoever the Pope is, that needs to be taken forward and be made part of every aspect of church life, including the conclave.
Yes, yeah, and we saw through the course of the Synod, and I think it would help, and it's beneficial to a new Pope coming in, that that has already happened. So there is a groundwork, there's a framework to keep it going if they so choose. And then I know Pope Francis was always looking for advice, input, would always try to meet, and part of the whole Synod theme, and that's why he developed that Council of Cardinals, his advisors, just as a way to talk to them and bounce things off them, and working to reform the Curia. It's important to have people to consult, and different types of people from different parts of the world with different perspectives. He was very good at engaging with others and trying to get all kinds of different perspectives to dialogue. Dialogue was really important to Pope Francis.
It certainly was. And dialogue needs to be one of the qualities, I think, that they look for in whoever will fill those, as I say, the shoes of the fisherman. St. Bernard of Clairvaux, who was an outstanding writer and had a deeply spiritual side, he spoke often of the qualities of the Pope. The Pope should be wholly absorbed in activity that edifies us, the church. He should be a man of prayer. He should be a good teacher. And above all virtues, St. Bernard of Clairvaux said he must be a person who cultivates in his own life humility. He must have a zeal for personal sanctity that people can readily see and imitate. And a pope must be one who is known by his goodness, the care of his heart. And Pope Benedict the 16th added another characteristic, that he should choose cardinals from the men most eminent in learning virtue, the ones who are good and qualified to be pastors, because ultimately every bishop and cardinal and pope needs to be fundamentally a pastor. And it's one of the things that I think I learned from Pope Francis when he was first named to the office of Peter, his attention to people, especially people who are struggling. His obvious love for people. When he was in the square, he would get off of the Pope Mobile and go to people and embrace a baby or a person who was obviously sick or struggling. And I think those are elements of a good pastor. So all of us who are pastors in the church need to look to the Pope for inspiration. And that's part of the reason why the conclave takes so long, because it's important that the cardinals find that individual who is just right for this moment in the history of the church.
And you said it, Bishop, the pastoral aspects of Pope Francis, really showed right off the bat once he became Pope, and going out on the balcony there and asking for the people to take a moment to pray for him. Right off the bat, and then just being able to whenever he made a visit to another country, always made sure he would either stop by a prison stop by, homeless facility or, whatever it may be. He always made a point to meet with the marginalized or people on the edges wherever he went. Of course, a lot of people have images of him on Holy Thursday going to the prisons and washing the feet of the men and women in prison too. So that pastoral spirit, as you say, hopefully they will continue. We'll continue on with the new Pope as well. We're going to we don't want anybody to go anywhere because we're still awaiting the smoke, but we are going to take a quick break. And so please stay here for our continuing coverage of Conclave 2025. We'll be back in just a moment. If the smoke appears, we'll cut right into whatever we're playing, but we'll be back here in just a moment with more of our coverage.
Here at the Catholic TV Network, we are a powerful prayer community. Join us to pray all throughout the day for morning prayer, the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass, the Holy Rosary, the Angelus, the Novena, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and evening prayer. All throughout the day, let us pray right here on Catholic TV, America's Catholic television network. Hello, I'm Bishop Reed. Join me each and every day in meditating on the mysteries of the Holy Rosary of the Blessed Virgin Mary right here on Catholic TV, America's Catholic television network.
Every Sunday, the Catholic TV network brings you masses from around the country, starting at 10 a.m. live from the Basilica of the Sacred Heart at the University of Notre Dame. Then at 4 p.m. from the San Fernando Cathedral in San Antonio, Texas, and from the Archdiocese of Boston at 7 p.m. Masses from around the country every Sunday on the Catholic TV network.
Never miss an interview by subscribing to the all-new This Is the Day YouTube channel.
It's one convenient place to find all the This Is the Day interviews on the world's biggest video platform.
We've been bringing you conversations with Catholics from all walks of life, and we can't wait to continue that journey with you on our very own channel.
Thank you for watching Catholic TV, and we look forward to having you join us for This Is the Day on YouTube.
Since our first televised Mass in 1955, the Catholic TV network has been devoted to providing for your spiritual needs and walking alongside you in your faith journey. Over the years, we've sought to keep up with the rapidly changing media landscape, and today we're proud to serve you on YouTube. On the Catholic TV channel, you'll find our daily Masses, Catholic prayers, content from our broadcast TV shows, and original videos produced to help you live your faith and life more fully. Whether you've been Catholic for 85 years or have never stepped foot in church, we want to serve you. Join us on YouTube and experience the goodness, the beauty, and the truth of Catholicism.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Ellison. I'm in front of the Homeless Jesus bronze sculpture, which is in front of the Basilica of St. Mary in Minneapolis. Not only is this basilica the co-cathedral of the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis, it is also the first basilica in the United States. The Basilica of St. Mary is just one of the many Catholic destinations we bring you to each week to showcase the history, the beauty, and the treasures of the Catholic faith. So please join us every week for Catholic destinations right here on the Catholic TV network.
Did you know you can watch your favorite Catholic TV shows anytime, anywhere? All you need is the Catholic TV app. available from your app store today. Whether it's on your phone or the streaming platform of your choice, Catholic TV's programming is available 24/7, live or on demand. So find the Catholic TV app in the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Father Eric Caden, the Director of the Office of Vocations here in the Archdiocese of Boston. Please join your prayers to mine for an increase in vocations to the diocesan priesthood here in Boston. If you yourself are thinking of this extraordinary vocation, or if you know a man who might be considering it, I invite you, even at this moment, to pray to God that he be given the grace and the strength and the courage to hear and to follow that call to serve our Lord and his people here in the Archdiocese of Boston. For more information, I invite you to visit our website, vocationsboston.org, or to follow us on Facebook or Instagram at vocationsboston. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bishop Reed. All of us at Catholic TV are grateful for your prayerful and financial support of our media ministry. But I want to call your attention to the Catholic TV Bequest Society. A bequest does not affect your current finances, but rather assist your family with your instructions as to how you want to distribute your estate. If you notify Catholic TV with your intent to support the network, you'll become a member of the Catholic TV Bequest Society. Your membership allows us to express our gratitude to you, to keep you in our prayers in a special way, and to help us to plan for the future, long term. Best of all, there are no dues, but you'll receive an invitation to special events, an ongoing subscription to the Catholic TV Monthly magazine, and the promise of our daily prayers. A planned gift in any amount or form from your estate to Catholic TV will help sustain our future work of spreading the good news of Jesus Christ across the country and even around the world. For more information, visit our website, CatholicTV.com, for sample wording on ways for you to include Catholic TV in your will and to make a bequest to the Catholic TV network. Thank you.
And we are back here at the desk as our continuing coverage of Conclave 2025 continues. We are awaiting word. We went on at 1 a.m. Eastern time here, and we are expecting at any moment for smoke to be coming out of the chapel, from the Sistine Chapel, and that will indicate, if it's black, that there is no vote for a new pope, and the white smoke, of course, would tell us that they have voted for a new pope. But it would be highly unusual if that should happen, if we should get a new pope in the first round of voting, but it could happen, and you never know. So it is a little bit unusual that it is taking this long.
A friend of mine just texted me and said perhaps the bathroom line is building up.
That could.
I mean, you never know.
You know.
Some of these Cardinals are older. Now, Kevin, what happens, do you know, if there's a deadlock, you know, after many sessions? What do they do?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I mentioned too, like after 3 days, they will take a day of rest and a day of prayer and reflection. And then they go back in, and from what I understand, they do another 3 days. Okay. Nothing happens. They'll take another day off, take a break and rest and a day of reflection, and continue that way until something happens.
And we're looking for a 2/3 majority.
2/3, which is about 80. It's 89 electors.
Yeah, we round that up.
Yes, yeah.
In the spirit of generosity.
While we were in the break, I pulled out something from 2013. Ambrosio Biazzoni, then Vice President of the Vatican Library, author of the book on the history of the papal elections, distributed a sheet about some curiosities about the elections to reporters in 2013 on the topic of the age of the Pope at election. He said 3 popes were under the age of 25. The last pope was Gregory V, who was 24 when elected in 996. 7 were between 25 and 40 years old. The last Pope, Leo X, who was 37 in 1513. 11 were between 41 and 50. The last one was Pope Clement VII, who was elected in 1523 at the age of 44. These are all like very, very young considering nowadays. 24 popes were in their 50s. The most recent was St. John Paul II, who was 58 years old when he began his papal ministry in 1978. So he was probably the youngest since
Yeah, that was amazing too. I remember that so well. I mean, if we ever had a young pope like that again, it really had an amazing impact on people. To see his youth, his vigor, you know. Because we are used to, popes typically are older men, and they remain in office, usually except for, well, Pope Benedict XVI and a few other exceptions. They remain in office until death. So we're used to older men, but it would be interesting to have a younger pope to kind of re-engage everybody.
Reinvigorate. 58 was the age of St. John Paul II. 37 were between 61 and 70 years old. The last pope, Pope John Paul I, who was 65 when he began his 33-day papacy in 1978. And only 3 popes were over 80 when elected. The last chosen by Cardinals in 1406 was Pope Gregory XII. He was 81 years old. So there you have it.
You raise another topic. We're wondering why it is taking so long to find out the results of this first vote. You're watching live coverage here, and we've got our eyes on the chimney, the smokestack coming out of the top of the Sistine Chapel, the roof of the Sistine Chapel. But if it was, in fact, someone from outside of the Sistine Chapel, say a cardinal who was older than 80, it would take much more time to
bring
him in. So there could be many reasons why we're waiting so long, but probably it is just the fact that there are so many cardinals in the chapel. And that the process is just going to take a little bit longer than usual.
And a lot of them have not been through this process before.
Good point.
So, you know, just sort of getting acclimated to what they're required to do. And as I mentioned too, Cardinal Pietro Parolin is first time kind of as the person in charge in there to coordinate everything that's going on. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But this is really interesting. We have some, I might as well keep it going. We have some lasts. So these are famous lasts from papal history. The last pope who was not a cardinal yet when elected was Pope Urban VI in 1378. And we mentioned, Bishop Reed mentioned too that, you know, any male any late Catholic male person could become a pope. The last who was not even a priest yet was Pope Leo X. Pope Leo X. The last born in Rome was Pope Pius XII, elected in 1939. He was also the last serving Vatican Secretary of State, elected. Interesting.
Pius XII.
Yeah.
Eugenio Pacelli, I think was his name.
Yeah. The last African pope was Pope Gelasius, elected in 492. So just little interesting tidbits to you know, just having your arsenal when you go out and start talking about the conclave with other people. Interesting.
As the Cardinals were taking the oath earlier when they came into the Sistine Chapel, if you were with us, they each went and placed their hands on the gospel and took an oath to keep the vow of secrecy and also the various instructions that they're given for the proceeds of the conclave. But the Cardinals, of course, wear red, and there's a reason for that. The red garments are tied to the blood of martyrs. The Church, in a very real way, especially in Rome, was really watered by the blood of martyrs. And so this symbolizes the Cardinals' willingness to offer their lives for the faith and is meant to be a reminder to them and to us of their role, that it's not as much a political honor but a sacred duty, and they are performing that sacred duty here today. One of the most profound things that the Cardinals as a college, as a body, do is to elect a new pope. And so we are waiting along with you, keeping our eyes on that smokestack sticking out of the chimney, the roof of the Sistine Chapel, waiting to see the results of the first vote, which has happened or is happening right now inside the Sistine Chapel.
And we will say whether it's, let me get this right, fumata nera, black smoke, or fumata bianca, white smoke. That's what we're waiting for right now, in case anybody's waiting. Actually, as we talk a little bit about inside the Sistine Chapel right now, there's some terms that are used for some of the things that are going on there. Revisers are a group of cardinals, usually 3, tasked with checking the accuracy and the integrity of the vote count after each scrutiny, which is the vote. They help verify that the conclave follows proper procedures. The Rogito, R-O-G-I-T-O, the official document, they have an official document that kind of summarizes the events of the conclave and the election of the Pope. It's drawn up by the notaries and signed by those who witnessed the election as well. You also have the scrutineers. These are 3 cardinals chosen by lot for each round of voting, and they collect, open, and count the ballots, ensuring the election process follows the established rules as well. So, and then they call the voting process is actually called the scrutiny. Each cardinal elector writes his choice for Pope on a paper ballot. The ballots are read out loud and counted. So they do the they have people that are inside, as we mentioned. Cardinal Pietro Parolin is kind of in charge running things inside, but they do have other cardinals that are helping out, checking the vote, scrutinizing them, and, making sure everything goes as according to the rules. So there's a lot going on inside right now.
A lot of checks and balances. I suppose you could say, well, why don't we make use of technology? I mean, we're using technology here to bring the news of the conclave to you and who the new Holy Father might be. But I think that the checks and balances that are set up in the rules of the conclave are pretty strict, and as you've described them, provide the ability for us to be confident, and the cardinals themselves to be confident that they are represented, each one, properly, and that the decision of the election is something that we can all have great confidence in because of the checks and balances that you described.
Yes, yeah. And we talked about this a little bit earlier too, but the last few conclaves have fairly gone, fairly short. 2 days for Francis, 2 days for Benedict XVI, 3 days for John Paul II, 2 days for John Paul I. We had 3 days for Paul VI. John the 23rd was 4 days. Pius the 12th, 2 days. Pius the 11th, 5 days. Benedict the 15th in 1914, just 3 days. And Pius the 10th, 1903, and 4 days. So really there is, in this, in the previous century and leading into this century as well, just the longest it's been is 5 days back in 1922 with Pius the 11th. So
interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. This stays on track here.
I suspect the Cardinals are probably a bit hungry right now. What do you think?
What is a typical time, Bishop? You've been in Rome. What is a typical time for dinner? In Rome.
7:30.
7, yeah. So be it like 1 o'clock here.
But the big meal is usually around 1 p.m. in the afternoon, pranzo.
Oh, okay.
The evening meal, unless you go out to a restaurant, the evening meal is usually in traditional Italian style, is a simpler meal. The big meal is in the afternoon.
Now, do they actually, is that still a thing where there is that time during the afternoon, whether it be a siesta time or, time of relaxation?
Nap time. That's going to happen right after we see the smoke. We're going to have a little siesta here.
But that's here, yeah.
But in case you're wondering, where do they eat? What do they eat? Well, I'm not sure what they eat, but they will be going after this session once the voting is complete. That is to say, if a pope is not elected, they'll be going back to the Doma Santa Marta, where many of them are staying, and they'll have dinner there together. So, and I'm sure it will be good.
Yes, yeah.
And they'll be able to talk about the day's proceedings and be able to do that in strict confidence and protected as they are by the rules of the conclave.
And we were mentioning, too, about the Doma Santa Marta, and that is, of course, where Pope Francis decided to stay. He did not stay as most of the popes would do at the Apostolic Palace. And he had a block of rooms there, too, which are sealed off still. So that was the other issue, despite the fact that I think they only had like 125 rooms traditionally, or that's what they have now. But because they lost some of the rooms that the Pope was using that are now sealed too, so they needed another place to go. So right next to the Santa Marta is the old Santa Marta, yeah, where some of the cardinal electors will be staying for that as well. And, you know, back in the day, I guess they were sleeping on cots and stuff and all together too. So
yeah, I've seen some pictures of that. You know, they were cots wherever they found a little space. They would put a cardinal.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how it's come. But
the Doma Santa Marta was really built by Pope John Paul II, Saint John Paul II, was really built for this purpose, to house the cardinals for the conclave. And as Kevin mentioned, the block of rooms where Pope Francis, God rest his soul, was living and working has been sealed. And not only that, the rooms in the Apostolic Palace, which have traditionally been the place where the Pope lives and works, those have also been sealed because Pope Francis used those as well for his official meetings and such. So it won't be until after a new Pope is elected that they'll open up those rooms. And this is all to preserve the integrity of the prior Pope's life and writings and personal effects until a new Pope is elected.
And just to continue with some of the notes on the Santa Marta, so the building has about 105 two-room suites and 26 singles. And each bedroom has a bed, dresser, night table, clothes stand, a private bathroom with a shower. The suites also have a sitting room with a desk, 3 chairs, a cabinet, and large closet. And most of the cardinals will take short bus rides to the Sistine Chapel for their twice daily voting session, should that continue. Although during the 2005 and 2013 conclave, some of the cardinals insisted on walking as well. And again, the oath of secrecy is also being taken by all the staff members in the Doma Santa Marta as well. The penalty for divulging anything about the election is excommunication. And we actually have up on the screen there the oath of secrecy that the cardinals have taken, and they must promise and swear. This is the staff as well, to refrain from using any audio or video equipment capable of recording anything which takes place during this time of election within Vatican City. And we talked about too that the communications jammed in the Sistine Chapel, but they are also, the Santa Marta has telephones, but the cardinals are prohibited from using them to phone anyone outside the conclave. The internet connections and international satellite television system are disconnected for the duration of their stay in the Santa Marta as well. So there you go. Not a lot of communicating going on.
Yeah.
Bring a couple of good books with you, and you know, it should be good.
We hope you're staying with us. We are waiting with bated breath to see what might be happening in the Sistine Chapel at this hour. You're looking at a live shot of the chimney atop the Sistine Chapel. And in hopefully a few moments, we will find out whether this first vote of the conclave has been successful in producing a new pope. We don't know why it's taking so long. But we're going to find out eventually, aren't we, Kevin?
Yes, we will. This is probably a good time to take a look at maybe some of the breakdown of the voting cardinals, where they are around the world. The Asia Pacific region accounts for 18% of voting age cardinals. It's up from 10% in 2013. Sub-Saharan Africa accounts for 12% of the cardinals. That's up from 8%. The Latin American Caribbean region has 18% of the cardinal electors. It's up from 17%. The Middle East, North Africa region has 3% of the voting cardinals, up from 2%. Europe has 40% of the cardinal electors, and that's down from 51%. And North America accounts for 10%, and that's down from 12%. So that's sort of the regions of the where the cardinals are from that will be voting, that are voting right now, hopefully in the Sistine Chapel. Yeah.
You're watching live coverage right here on Catholic TV of the conclave to elect a new pope. We have spent 9 days mourning the loss of Pope Francis. We celebrated in a very beautiful way his passing, his funeral, and his burial at the Basilica of St. Mary Major. And now the cardinals, after meeting together in congregations for the past few days, have been locked inside the Sistine Chapel for conclave, a word that means with the key. And they are in the midst of the first vote, and we are anxiously waiting to find out what happened in the Sistine Chapel, if possible.
So earlier today, they started the day with a mass, and then it took some time off, went to the Pauline Chapel, and then processed into the Sistine Chapel, where they taken the oath, and we were able to see that here on Catholic TV and throughout the world. And then, of course, they extra homines, they get everybody out of the chapel, and that's when the voting started. That is where we are right now, waiting the results of that first vote, which we have talked about, and traditionally, is a time of sort of just getting acclimated, maybe just to get a pulse of what cardinals are thinking, and it usually has not produced a pontiff right off the bat, but again, we don't know what is going on inside the Sistine Chapel right now, so we will stay here until we see some smoke coming out of the chapel, and hopefully that will happen soon. But again, there's a lot of prayer that happens during the lead up to this point, and that is something that the cardinals especially are praying for the help, the assistance, the guide of the Holy Spirit to sort of help them in their decision making. So I think that's a big factor that sometimes people kind of forget about and understand that this is a spiritual process. It's I've heard from cardinals who have done that vote and how seeing the Michelangelo's judgment on the wall there, and how that's affected them, and how awesome of a responsibility they felt that they were taking there. So this is it's a very serious, a very spiritual moment for many of the cardinals. Yeah.
I can remember Cardinal Sean O'Malley, who was our Archbishop here in Boston up until not too long ago, when we received a great new Archbishop, Richard Henning. But I remember him speaking as much as he could, because there's only so much that the cardinals can say about the conclave, but speaking about the spirit of the conclave as being almost like a retreat. So the cardinals go in together, they share prayer, meals, and then this common job that they have, really, to elect a new pope, which is one of the most awesome responsibilities that they are given. And it's all begins and ends with prayer. Today, this first session of voting that is going on right now in the Sistine Chapel began with prayer in St. Peter's Basilica. The cardinals gathered along with many other people, along with people in my parish here and parishes around the world, to offer the special Mass for the election of the Roman Pontiff. And that was celebrated. That was the beginning of their day. And then they gathered for prayer again in the Pauline Chapel before processing to the Sistine Chapel. But this evening, when this vote is concluded, unless, of course, a pope is elected, which we don't really expect, but if, when the evening is over, they will conclude their time in the Sistine Chapel by praying Vespers, the evening prayer of the Church, and then, as Kevin mentioned, they'll be taken to the to the hotel where they live, which is really built for this purpose, to house the cardinals during the conclave, the Domus Santa Marta.
And, when Pope Francis had started his pontificate too, he would say Mass at the Santa Marta chapel. There's a bigger chapel from what I understand, and then each floor has a smaller chapel that is in the Santa Marta. There's an opportunity there for those staying there. It's funny when you hear about, because there are people that live there throughout the course of the year, and they have to clear out, and they have their belongings that they can't take out, I guess, that they store in a certain place so that the cardinals can come in. But it's interesting. It's interesting to see this whole process take place. And I think, as you were mentioning too, Bishop Reed, the amount of media and interest there is, and just people that aren't Catholic, people that are just curious. But it's a moment for I don't know, that teaching moment, but a moment for people to sort of get a little taste of the Catholic Church and the importance of the Gospels and the importance of the Holy Spirit that guide us in what we do. That's
why I'm glad we have this chance to provide coverage on Catholic TV, because we can perhaps not spin the story. It's probably not the best expression, but show the depth of what happens at a conclave, the importance of it for the entire Church Universal, for each one of us, and the importance for bringing the gospel to the nations, which was the charge that Jesus gave those first bishops, those first apostles, and a challenge that still exists with us today.
And to think of the carrying that on from Peter all the way down to this time, and just really awesome to think about the succession of the Pope and the struggles that the Church has had in its history with popes that haven't been good, but being able to overcome that, being able to be guided by the Spirit, and to get through that and stay the course and continue today and be strong like we are here today. Yeah.
When the cardinals were taking the oath earlier, before the extra omnes and the beginning of the voting, they placed their hands on the book of the Gospels. But I did notice that the book of the Gospels was opened up to the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew 16, that conversation that Jesus had with Peter when he said, "You are the Messiah, the Christ." And Jesus said, "And you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." And so it is that spiritual foundation of the rock upon which the church was founded, who is Peter, and that ability to transfer that responsibility to another man for this day, that makes this a deeply spiritual and very moving experience for all of us, even though we're not in the Sistine Chapel, even though we're waiting, focusing our eyes on that chimney, hoping that we'll see white smoke one of these days. Whether it'll be tonight, we don't know, perhaps tomorrow or the next day, but it is beyond a doubt, this is a spiritual experience for the cardinals and for the whole church family.
And it really is, when you think about it, and the awesome responsibility. And as I said, I think, praying on it and having the cardinals pray on it, and realizing that too, how important it is. I think really they take their job seriously, and I've just seen some interviews with some of the cardinals too, and it seems like they realize this and how important it is, and just being accepting of the Spirit to move them to make the right decision, and it takes some time.
So keep them in your prayers. Do be praying for the cardinals as we move forward, because as Kevin said, as I've tried to say, this is a deeply spiritual moment for the whole church.
We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to continue staying here live with our conclave coverage. We are watching that chimney like a hawk, and we are going to be back in just a few moments with more of our coverage here, waiting for the smoke to come from the Sistine Chapel.
Where there is God, there is light, beauty, and above all, love.
Every day, we invite you into a holy place, that you might find hope and the fullness of life.
We are more than a TV network. We're a community of believers.
Celebrate the sacred mysteries, listen to God's word, and join us at the altar for each and every day.
And our work is all for you.
The obscure saint of the month for May is Saint Rose Venerini. Rose was born in Italy in 1656, the daughter of a doctor. Following the death of her fiancé, she entered a convent, but soon returned home to care for her newly widowed mother. Meanwhile, Rose invited the women of the neighborhood to recite the rosary in her home, forming a sort of sodality with them. As she looked to her future, Rose, under the spiritual guidance of a Jesuit priest, became convinced that she was called to become a teacher in the world rather than a contemplative nun in a convent. She opened a very successful free school for girls in 1685. Soon, Rose began to train teachers and administrators, and as her reputation grew, she was called upon to organize schools in many parts of Italy, including Rome. Rose died in Rome in 1728, where a number of miracles were attributed to her. She was beatified in 1952 and canonized in 2006. The sodality, or group of women she had invited to prayer, was ultimately given the rank of a religious congregation. Today, the Venerini sisters can be found in the United States and many other countries, working among Italian immigrants. St. Rose's feast day is celebrated on May 7th.
For thus says the Lord, the designer and maker of the earth, designing it to be lived in, not as an empty waste. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Do you question me about my children? Tell me how to treat the work of my hands? Shall the clay say to the potter, "What are you doing?" Instead, shout for joy and be glad forever in what I am creating. Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are potter. We are all the work of your hand.
My name is Luke Cornett. I'm a professional basketball player, and I play for the Boston Celtics.
How about Cornett?
Being a member of the Knights of Columbus helps me become a better man and father, because it really does help unite my desire in life to just serve God. I think the ability to have men that are together for a common purpose in that way is very meaningful to me. It's definitely a gift to realize, like, how am I called to give back and to reciprocate this love to the rest of the world and to the rest of the church. If you're looking to belong to a brotherhood that will support you and your faith and give you the opportunity to give back to others, I hope you'll become a knight.
Show us your Christ. After this, our exile. But show him to us also now. Show him while we are still wanderers.
I've been coming to the shrine for years, following a tradition from my mother and my aunt, who were both promoters for the organization. And what strikes me about this beautiful medal is the outstretched hands and arms of the Blessed Mother. Well, they are just a way of sharing in Our Lady's grace, and I just enjoy. It's a very warm feeling that I get when I come here and I pray before the shrine at the side of the altar.
Learn more about our devotion and worldwide promotion of Mary's Miraculous Medal family and get a free Miraculous Medal. Visit miraculousmedal.org.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that He will make all things right if I surrender to His will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with Him forever in the next. Amen.
For 2,000 years, our family has celebrated life and prayed for our world. We cared for the poor, started hospitals, blessed marriages, and educated generations of children. Guided by the Holy Spirit, we compiled the Bible. We are the Catholic Church, with over 1 billion in our family, in the church started by Jesus. If you've been away, come home to your parish and visit catholicscomehome.org today.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
As we approach adoration, it's always in a posture of humility. So it's always bringing ourselves before the Lord in the good times and in the bad times of our day, in the good times and bad times of the year, and our life as well. I just like to think of it as just coming before the Lord and bringing Him all of who I am for that day. You know, what I'm thinking about, what's worrying me, what I'm thankful for, what gives me joy, and sharing that with the Lord. I don't think that it's wrong for priests to pray some of their breviary or pray the rosary or, you know, the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. But what I would caution people is that we don't want to just fill the whole time with, you know, just different prayers that we think we have to get through. And if we say these prayers, it means that we would have had a great holy hour. Well, that's not it. Why are we coming to adoration in the first place? To have a true encounter with God. Our heart needs to be open, and we need to be free from distraction, which at times, if we're just kind of going through a checkbox, those other prayers can be for us. The devil's going to try to distract us during those times and think about what we had for lunch and what we're doing after. But knowing where we're at right now, today, as I come before the Lord, that directs our thoughts and that directs our prayer, and that directs kind of how we're listening to God in that silence. You want to be sure that you're leaving time just for silence, just for quiet, and just being quiet and seeing how the Lord wants to speak to you. That's what it's all about.
Since our first televised Mass in 1955, the Catholic TV network has been devoted to providing for your spiritual needs and walking alongside you in your faith journey. Over the years, we've sought to keep up with the rapidly changing media landscape, and today we're proud to serve you on YouTube. On the Catholic TV channel, you'll find our daily Masses, Catholic prayers, content from our broadcast TV shows, and original videos produced to help you live your faith and life more fully. Whether you've been Catholic for 85 years or have never stepped foot in church, we want to serve you. Join us on YouTube and experience the goodness, the beauty, and the truth of Catholicism.
Hi, I'm Father Eric Caden, the Director of the Office of Vocations here in the Archdiocese of Boston. Please join your prayers to mine for an increase in vocations to the diocesan priesthood here in Boston. If you yourself are thinking of this extraordinary vocation, or if you know a man who might be considering it, I invite you, even at this moment, to pray to God that He be given the grace and the strength and the courage to hear and to follow that call to serve our Lord and His people here in the Archdiocese of Boston. For more information, I invite you to visit our website, vocationsboston.org, or to follow us on Facebook or Instagram at vocationsboston. Thank you.
What I know is true. There's nothing that I would not do. I won't waste another minute. No, I won't. I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission.
Conclave 2025 continues here at Catholic TV. Kevin Nelson along with Bishop Robert
I like
Reed.
that driving music.
It's driving nowhere. We are here unexpectedly taking some time for this first vote to happen. So we're just waiting for the first round to show some smoke, whether it be black or white. And hopefully that will happen soon. But just lots of people in between the breaks when we were talking amongst each other too. Lots of people have different theories on why it's taking so long. But
are any of those conspiracy theories?
Yes.
Oh, I see smoke.
Oh, here we go. Wow.
And I would guess that is black smoke.
That is black smoke. Wow. I believe we have Jay on the line, too, who is in the square right now. Jay, are you there?
I am, Kevin.
All right, we're seeing
I'm very cold.
Are you seeing what we're seeing?
I cannot.
Okay.
Can we put it up on Catholic TV so I can see it? I'd love to see it. Actually, we can't see the chimney.
Well, we got the black smoke.
It's very black.
As we expected, but that was interesting. What were people in the square wondering what was going on as well? Or?
Yeah, well, everyone in the press was for sure because it had taken so long, and people would start clapping, and then everyone would look up, and next thing you knew, it was... it was another 15, 20, now it's 9 o'clock here in Rome time. But I think we all expected the black smoke, so this isn't a surprise.
Yes, yeah.
And our suspicion here is that just because of the large number of Cardinals, Jay, the fact that many of them, this is the first conclave, that, you know, all of these factors have probably delayed the voting process.
Yeah, no, you're right on, I think, Bishop. It's, I can now see people streaming out of St. Peter's, just leaving, many of them disappointed. But again, I think this is something that most people expected, and people will be here bright and early. Well, not as bright and early as Kevin Elson, but bright and early tomorrow morning to for the second attempt at electing a new pope.
Were you surprised at the numbers gathered for this first vote, Jay, knowing that you have been here before?
Yeah, I've never seen that many people this early.
Yeah.
It is amazing how many people are in the square right now. It was tens of thousands of people.
We're looking down a beautiful shot from an airplane, a helicopter, I think, at St. Peter's Square. Jay is in that crowd somewhere, enjoying the moment. The first vote has been concluded, and we saw black smoke come from the chimney atop the Sistine Chapel, which means that we're going to have to wait till tomorrow morning at least, to find out who the new Holy Father will be.
And it's still coming out.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a lot of smoke.
There were drones that take off, and we started just calling it the drone of hope, because we're hoping that some smoke would come out of that chimney, because it really is cold.
Well, we're seeing the smoke continuing to come out, and well, we thank you, Jay, for being with us. We brought you back in. We were concerned everything was going a little slow, but we have our results right now, and we want to let people know that we will be back on the air in the morning at 4:30 a.m. here Eastern Standard Time, and Jay's going to be in the square as well at that time in Rome.
So get your coffee and pull up to the TV set tomorrow at 4:30 a.m. if you're on the Eastern Seaboard. That's Eastern Time.
Jay, you better get some rest as well. I know this is a little late for you in terms of bedtime.
I'm ready, Kevin. I still have to eat. I still have to go get something to eat. But I have to tell you again, very exciting. I look forward to tomorrow, and hopefully it's a historic day. If not, I look forward to Friday. Whatever God thinks.
We're with you.
Amen. Amen. All right, Jay.
Have a great night, Jay.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Well, there you have it. There's the smoke, the black smoke that indicates that there is no new pope. So we will wait again for voting tomorrow. And as I mentioned, we will be back here at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. So please join us for that first round. And if there's no conclusive vote for the 4:30 a.m. first round of voting, we will be back at 6 a.m. for the second round, and then they will burn the smoke, whether it be white or black, after the second round voting around 6 a.m. Tomorrow morning. But 4:30 a.m.
I want the people also to know at St. John the Evangelist Parish in Wellesley that I will be there for the 5 o'clock confirmation.
Oh, well, you better get moving.
Which is why I'm glad that the smoke is black right now, because I didn't know how I was going to make it.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us for the Conclave 2025 coverage. Again, please join us tomorrow as we continue our coverage as we await a new pope for the Catholic Church. Until then, God bless everyone.
The obscure saint of the month for May is Saint Rose Venerini. Rose was born in Italy in 1656, the daughter of a doctor. Following the death of her fiancé, she entered a convent, but soon returned home to care for her newly widowed mother. Meanwhile, Rose invited the women of the neighborhood to recite the rosary in her home, forming a sort of sodality with them. As she looked to her future, Rose, under the spiritual guidance of a Jesuit priest, became convinced that she was called to become a teacher in the world rather than a contemplative nun in a convent. She opened a very successful free school for girls in 1685.